Baphomet. Magic in plain sight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and I wanted to bring something new to the table today because there's been a lot of requests for me personally to come on and do something in regards to magic, symbolism, sigils, and how certain corporations, political institutions, financial institutions, universities, etc., use these for their benefit and tell people of certain religious preferences that it's bad for them because they might go to hell, essentially. So there's a big deal about Baphomet. Most people, when you say the word Baphomet, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? How many of you listening to this podcast right now have seen the statue of President George Washington posing as above, so below? The same posture Baphomet represents. But isn't Baphomet the devil? Or the Dark Lord? Isn't Baphomet Lucifer and or the Antichrist? I mean, why does the Church of Satan promote Baphomet as their representative, essentially? There was a big stink when the Church of Satan, or a sect of the Church of Satan, unveiled a $100,000, 9-foot-tall bronze statue of Baphomet in Detroit. You guys remember that? I certainly can't answer the last question as far as why the Church of Satan and certain sects of the Church of Satan use Baphomet as a representation of their cause. What I can do is offer you a breakdown of what the posture and archetype of Baphomet represents to many astute individuals that study and or practice the occult. And when I say the occult, I'm referring to hidden knowledge. There's many different forms of occult. Just like math, you've got calculus, trigonometry, geometry. Magic is the same thing. You've got chaos magic, ritualistic magic. Some things are more dogmatic. Some people practice astro-shamanism. Some people get into hermetics. Some people practice the left-hand path. There's a whole bunch of different types of scenarios that you can go into as far as magic and the occult. So when I say the occult, I'm referring to the unknown. Once you get a specific degree within certain mystery schools or reach that level yourself via your own studies and path, you'll notice scenarios, symbols, shapes, sounds, and satire on a whole new level. Not because you are better than anybody else or even at a higher level, as some might say. It's because you're vibrating at a completely different frequency, and in doing so, your body, mind, and soul will pick up information and awareness that cannot be accumulated when at a certain frequency or level. I never would have imagined being where I am today in thought, if that makes sense. Why do so many give all their power and energy over to an underlying cabal that uses it against them? Blind faith, psychology, conditioning, generational lies, and deceit. One might really start to question their religion when they have been taught not to study symbols and occult, aka hidden knowledge, that they themselves use, those that tell you not to use it. Why does certain scriptures say you need to be good sheep? Does that make you nervous? I always question that. Once I learned to think for myself and research my own beliefs, the whole world around me flipped upside down. Even to this day, I have difficulties at times grasping what I myself have uncovered. This podcast was created to make the uninitiated think outside the box, not confined within the boundaries of plastic worship, lies, and wicked deceit. Symbols are a lot more powerful than most people are aware of. Why do you think corporations, banks, universities, marketing companies, Hollywood, secret societies, and others use them so often? Now, a symbol can be converted into a sigil, And then if properly produced and charged, the effects can literally be out of this world. Now, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? What does that mean for all of us? We need to be careful about the thoughts and energy we feed these symbols and sigils with. Now, let's look at the Baphomet symbol as an example. Most people look at it as dark and demonic. Even the word demon has been altered from daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N. If you look up the Greek definition of daemon, it means guardian angel or higher self. Now I am going to show you how magic is hidden in plain sight with Baphomet and George Washington as an example. It was funny, too, because when I started today, my regular routine, looking at current events, checking out the news and the alternative news and seeing what's out there but not all over the place that's important, no problems researching anything on the internet. And then when I decided I felt like it'd be important to do this specific podcast on breaking down certain symbols and representation on Baphomet, I started looking up Baphomet on the internet. It just shut down. It wouldn't let me do it. For like 5 minutes, I had to restart my browser and everything. Very weird. So probably just internet gremlins. Thought that was kind of odd, though. So let's do this first. The first image I'm going to share with you guys is going to be one that Levi put together. Actually, it's the 19th century image of a sabbatic goat created by Levi Eliphas. So if you see right here, folks, you'll see the pentagram in the forehead. You see the horns. You see the wings. You'll see the as above, so below symbol, right? See that? And then you're going to see the DNA strands here, the double helix, the dual serpents. You're going to see the feminine aspect, the boobs there. Okay? And then the horns represent earthly desires. You've got the third eye chakra being open right there. That's your top chakra there in the center, as you can see, in between the horns. The as above pointing at the sun. So below pointing at the moon. Now, also, you're going to notice the arms have two different words, Latin words. On the right, it's solve. And then on the left, it's coagula, which is joined together. So separate on the right, join together on the left. Power of binding and loosing, usurped from God, and according to Catholic tradition, from the hierarchy, acting as God's representative on earth. So essentially, Baphomet isn't necessarily a being, but an archetype, a representation of the dualistic universe. As I've said before, it's representing as above, so below, the higher self and the lower self, the earthly desires and the heavenly desires. The wings on Baphomet represent the heavenly desires, such as your higher self, not the physical, animalistic type desires oftentimes people have, or, whether it's wanting more stuff, more sex, better looks, whatever. That's all normal and natural. That's not a bad thing. You just have to know where to balance it out. This is the complete representation of as above, so below, the feminine aspect and the male aspect. The phallus, the dual serpents, the DNA also in the center there, the rod, you could look at that as the phallus, the masculine energy. So you've got both. This represents everything. Now, we're going to go to the next one here. This is an actual statue. This is the statue, the $100,000 statue, 9 foot tall, brass, unveiled in Detroit in 2015. You're going to see the same thing. You're going to see the dual serpents. That represents the DNA, the dual helix. You've got the male representation in the center there. You've got as above, so below. You've got the center chakra. You've got not only the pentagram on the forehead, but also the reverse pentagram in the background. The horns, the wings, and then on the right, you've got, looks like, the feminine energy, and on the left, you've got the masculine energy on this one, because you've got a little boy on the left and a little girl on the right. And then if you look down at the bottom of the statue, you'll notice the hooves, the hooved goat representation. And if you look at the old definition of goat, it is God of all things, Pan. If you go way, way back, way before Christianity. And this is just representation of stuff that's already out there, guys. I'm not adding anything new or taking away from anything. I'm not saying it's good or bad. You know, what are you going to do with these symbols? Are you going to think good thoughts and charge them with good energy, or are you going to think bad thoughts and charge them with bad negative energy? That's totally on you. That's not up to me. I'm just showing you what it is and what it represents neutrally, and people are more than welcome to make up their own minds. Now take a look at this. You're going to see here Washington, George Washington on the right, and Baphomet on the left. The exact same pose. Look at that. The exact same pose, you guys. Now, we'll go to the actual statue in D.C. You can see for yourself. He's got the as above, so below symbol. And you'll notice that the left foot is out. The right foot is in. These aren't crossed, so this isn't intertwined. This is as above, so below. And if you look at it from a different angle here, you'll see some very interesting carvings on the right side. Very occult. Got the lion. Very powerful representation. Now this on the left side, on the so below side, I found this very interesting. I'm trying to figure out who this person is that's looking at a crystal ball. It looks like a crystal ball essentially, or maybe a miniature planet. And then there's some very interesting carvings underneath that. You're going to see it looks like a infant and a serpent, a baby and a serpent. That's very interesting in my opinion. So we'll just go back here again to the statue. You can see as above, so below. And then now we're going to go over to the DNA strand, as you can see. You know, here's your DNA. Here's another picture here. You can see where it comes from, the DNA. This is another interesting image right here, because this is an old Egyptian hieroglyph of Thoth. And he's got the dual serpent rods. And this was translated as Thoth tampering with DNA, essentially, and bringing back Osiris. So you can see the two rods of the serpents. That's the DNA representation, giving life to Osiris, bringing Osiris back. I'm sure there's other breakdowns and possibilities as well. That's just one of them. And also, you know, another thing with Thoth, if you look at Thoth as a character or a representation, you have very good people that are astute, knowledgeable, kind souls, and they look at Thoth as the representation of knowledge, science, astrology, etc. And then you'll have the opposite, where some people call themselves Satanists or follow the left-hand path. They'll use Thoth as their representation in a more dark form. So once again, it's what do you want to take that symbol or representation or archetype or deity's energy and do with it? Just like a car. You can drive a car to a store. You can drive a car through a store. Just like a gun. Just like a knife. It's the same scenario. Now, here's another interesting thing. The rod of Asclepius. The serpent wrapping around the rod. Oh, there you go. Medical Corps. They use the exact same symbol. The United Nations, who uses the exact same symbol. This is a statue somewhere in India that's thousands of years old. You see the representation of the dual serpents, the DNA. Here's an Egyptian image. Very old. You can see the same thing, the dual serpents. You've got Thoth on the left. I think it's Isis on the right. Looks like they're making beings, essentially does. Looks like they're making creatures. They're messing around with the DNA. Here's a tarot card. Le Diable. And you're going to notice it's the triad. You're going to see the triad representation. You're also going to see the as above, so below symbology, the horns, the wings. Here's another tarot card, the devil. Once again, you're going to see that Adam and Eve's locked up, essentially. but it's the triad. It's the dark triad or the anti-triad. Not anti-triad, but opposite. You're going to see the horns. Yet in this one, you only see the inverted pentagram, which is interesting. But you do see the wings. You do see the horns. Eve has horns on this one, which is quite interesting. Now, this was on Wikipedia when I looked up Baphomet, and I haven't done a whole lot of research into this specific symbol, but I do find it fascinating because if you take a look at it and you compare it to some Egyptian symbols, I think there's some interesting comparisons there. Also, the movie Stargate. So, interesting things indeed. And I hope you're having a nice day wherever you guys are. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels. We have 2 of them, youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. Also check out our William Wallace channel. And also, leakproject.com is offering a promotion right now. I don't know if you've seen our really cool custom decals that are made out of a high quality vinyl, but they're $10, free shipping, and we're even offering a promotion right now where you'll get a free contributing membership to leakproject.com, which gives you access to all the podcasts, commercial-free, downloadable, or streamable, and it definitely helps Leak Project. The more monies we get, the more that we can do. So we're not looking for donations. Unless you want to kick us down one, we'd certainly appreciate it. What we are looking for is sponsors and those that want to help contribute by becoming a member at Leak Project, or pick up a decal. We've got some really nice shirts as well. I know they're not cheap, but they're not super expensive. And unless we buy 1,000 of them, you guys, we can't get the same price that you'd be able to go to Walmart and pick up. But they're nice, tag-free Hanes shirts. And also, I want to let you guys know that the radiation levels right now they've been higher than normal out here. They were earlier today, they were at 0.13 microsieverts. Now they're down to 0.12. I find that interesting. The past few days have been higher than normal. So, with that said, have a wonderful day and be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Talk to you soon. President George Washington posing as Baphomet. Magic in plain sight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and I wanted to bring something new to the table today because there's been a lot of requests for me personally to come on and do something in regards to magic, symbolism, sigils, and how certain corporations, political institutions, financial institutions, universities, etc. use these for their benefit and tell people of certain religious preferences that it's bad for them because they might go to hell, essentially. So there's a big deal about Baphomet. Most people, when you say the word Baphomet, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? How many of you listening to this podcast right now have seen the statue of President George Washington posing as above, so below? The same posture Baphomet represents. But isn't Baphomet the devil? Or the Dark Lord? Isn't Baphomet Lucifer and or the Antichrist? I mean, why does the Church of Satan promote Baphomet as their representative, essentially? There was a big stink when the Church of Satan, or a sect of the Church of Satan, unveiled a $100,000, 9-foot-tall bronze statue of Baphomet in Detroit. You guys remember that? I certainly can't answer the last question as far as why the Church of Satan and certain sects of the Church of Satan use Baphomet as a representation of their cause. What I can do is offer you a breakdown of what the posture and archetype of Baphomet represents to many astute individuals that study and or practice the occult. And when I say the occult, I'm referring to hidden knowledge. There's many different forms of occult. Just like math, you've got calculus, trigonometry, geometry. Magic is the same thing. You've got chaos magic, ritualistic magic. Some things are more dogmatic. Use Baphomet as a representation of their cause. What I can do is offer you a breakdown of what the posture and archetype of Baphomet represents to many astute individuals that study and or practice the occult. And when I say the occult, I'm referring to hidden knowledge. There's many different forms of occult. Just like math, you've got calculus, trigonometry, geometry. How certain corporations, political institutions, financial institutions, universities, etc., use these for their benefit and tell people of certain religious preferences that it's bad for them because they might go to hell, essentially. So there's a big deal about Baphomet. Most people, when you say the word Baphomet, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Magic in plain sight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and I wanted to bring something new to the table today because there's been a lot of requests for me personally to come on and do something in regards to magic, symbolism, sigils, and Baphomet as their representative, essentially. There was a big stink when the Church of Satan, or a sect of the Church of Satan, unveiled a $100,000 9-foot-tall bronze statue of Baphomet in Detroit. You guys remember that? I certainly can't answer the last question as far as why the Church of Satan and certain sects of the Church of Satan. How many of you listening to this podcast right now have seen the statue of President George Washington posing as above, so below? The same posture Baphomet represents. But isn't Baphomet the devil? Or the Dark Lord? Isn't Baphomet Lucifer and or the Antichrist? I mean, why does the Church of Satan promote Baphomet?